Okay, so live loops forces us to work in the old school traditional pattern based way, just like we're back in the old days with a drum box, a sampler, a couple of synths and a hardware sequencer. So I'm going to build an old school style dance tune like from back in the old days with hardware, because that's how live loops forces us to work. I'll just show you a whole bunch of different things, right? So let's start with a new project. File, new. And let me just check the audio is okay for this. Yeah, okay. Okay, we'll start with the software instrument track, and I'm going to switch to the live loops bit. On this track, I'm going to put a drum box, deep bass house. Okay. Alrighty, let's close this bit over here. Now, here's the track. These are the cells. Okay. Now I can record into this first cell, or any other cell, but you know, into here, right? When I record into a cell on any kind of instrument track, whether it's a pitched instrument or a drum instrument, it's going to record a traditional MIDI region, like a green part, but it's going to be a MIDI region in one of these cells. Okay, so I need my metronome. I'm going to put this up here so I can see what note my master keyboard's playing. Okay. Alright, so I just hit record. I'll do it from the cell directly because there's nothing else to play along with, right? And after a counting, I'll record. And it'll just record for as long as I keep recording until I hit stop. Here we go. Boom, 4 bars. And I hit stop. There's a resulting MIDI region, but it's circular because by default these cells are loops. If you want, you can uncheck loop and then it becomes a linear cell that will just play through once its length and stop. But by default they're all loops, which will just keep on playing round and round and round. Right, double click into the editor. And one thing to note, look, this is the pattern. That's the pattern I just recorded in. But above it here, there's this loop thing. This is like the loop and length of the cell. And with MIDI regions, I could make my cell length, like by dragging that out, 8 bars, and my pattern can play anywhere along the length of the now 8 bar long cell loop. All right, but we'll come to that. So there it is, 4 bar pattern I played in. Well, select, quantize, and if I want to I can use the functions, MIDI transform, fix the velocity to 100, then I'm going to fix the length to 001, there's a 16th, boom, there we go. Just bump them all up a bit in velocity now, and there's my kick that I recorded in. Now I can play it from the cell here, there's nothing else to play along with, so I can hit play on the cell here. And it's just going to play round and round and round. All right. Now, when I hit stop on the, let me do that again. Let me play it again. When I hit stop, it's paused at this point round of its clock. So if I hit play again, it will start playing from where the clock is there because it's in a pause play mode now, right? If I want to completely stop it, I click that again and again, and now it's reset to start from the start. So you can record into a cell, whether it's a drum or pitched instrument, and you get this green type MIDI cell region, which is a loop by default, but you can switch it out of loop and now it's linear. It'll just play once through. And stop. And stop. All right. Boom, boom, boom. Right. Put it back to loop. Okay, so I can record in like that. Let's backspace to delete that. I can right click, let's take it out of record. I can right click and create a blank MIDI cell, but this is just a blank MIDI cell. There's no actual region in it, no actual region. If we look down here in the editor for that cell, it's empty. we've got the loop thing here still, showing the length of the cell, which is 4 bars long by default. There's no actual region in it until I put in a note. And because there is no region until I input one note, in the case of a drum kit on an instrument track, you don't see the drum names until you put in a note. I'll put in a C1 note, boom. Then we have a region. And the region gets made the same length as the cell loop. Yeah? 4 bars. Right? And then I see my drum names. So you can pencil in stuff like that. But again, bear in mind, my pattern, I can make it any length I want. That's the length of the cell by default, 4 bars. And this pattern can be anywhere within that length of the cell and its loop. So you'll play nothing for 1 bar, then play the pattern, and then the final part of the loop, play nothing for the final bar, right? Okay, so you can set up MIDI regions and pencil in, etc. Or we can put in a pattern cell. That's a step sequencer cell. Okay, let me just bring in the other side of logic, the traditional linear range area. When you put in a pattern cell, step sequencer pattern cell, it's 4 bars long. The same as, look, let me drag it over here. 4 bars long. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, exactly the same as when you create an empty pattern region over here. 4 bars long by default. Okay. But the pattern is the default 1 bar, just as like if we're working over here. 16 steps at the default step value of 16. So 1 bar. And if I put a pattern in here with a step sequencer, this region will play it around 4 times. If I want, I could make my pattern 4 bars long, and then whatever I put in here will be the entire length of the cell at its default 4 bars. But because the way step sequencer works is, even if you have a 1 bar pattern, like putting a pattern over here again, if I put a 1 bar pattern in here, it's going to be in the first bar there, but this region is 4 bars long. So the pattern I put in at the default length, 1 bar, will play round 4 times. Or if I drag this out 8 bars long, that 1 bar pattern will just replay round and round 8 times. Well, it's the same with a pattern, the step sequencer pattern in here. It's 4 bars by default, but if I wanted to, I could make it 8 bars there by changing the cell and loop length, and now it's 8 bars. And this 1 bar pattern I put in at the default step value, the default step length, and with the default step value of 16ths, will be 1 bar. And because this cell now is 8 bars long, this 1 bar pattern, if I put it in, will play around 8 times. So look, let me just put this back to 4, the default, like that, 4. Okay, so look, I put in a 4 on the floor. There it is, and it's 4 bars long, this cell, so this 1 bar pattern will repeat round 4 times to make 1 cycle. Yeah, bing bang bong. If I wanted to put a double kick at the end every 2 bars, I make this 32 steps, put in a double kick at the end, and that will play at the end of 2 bars, and then it will cycle around, play again for 2 bars, and do it at the end of that, like this. Etc. Okay, so I'll put it back to 1 bar. Okay, there's my kick. Now, the old school way of working with hardware, with drum boxes and pattern-based sequences, is you start off with a basic drum pattern to kick, or an open hat going ch 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 or whatever, in pattern slot 1, and then you copy it over to the next pattern slot and you add to it. Then you copy that pattern over to the next slot and add to it again, and you build and build and build. Each pattern is adding another drum or something. Okay, so there's my pattern, and to put it into the next vertical scene, because these vertical scenes are the sections of your song, I can either alt and drag it over and like that, and then edit this one, or I can select that and do Command R and repeat it over. Right, there it is. So I've made a copy in the next vertical scene of the same pattern, the 4 on the floor kick, and now I'll put in a tish hat. So we got the traditional boom tish boom tish boom tish. Here we go. Speed it up a bit. Okay, stop. I don't need this part open anymore. Okay, and then I do the same thing. I select this, Command R, and it's copied over to the next vertical scene. And here it is here. And now I'm going to add a snare. Bring that up there. Put in a snare. Like that, and now I've got a snare. Okay, bing bang bong. So section 1, section 2, section 3, and now I can play these around as long as I want. And the way it works with the quantized start at the default of 1 bar, and by default all cells have the same quantized start as global, which is here 1 bar. It means that when I press the arrow down here to trigger a vertical scene, all of the patterns in it will begin playing. And in any bar of their cycle, if I press the arrow for the next scene, after that bar finishes, the next scene will take over like this. Right? But I let them play all the way through and triggered the next scene in the final bar. So each one played around 4 times. But I could do it like this. Yeah, I just triggered this scene when this was in its first bar. So as soon as it finished its first bar, this scene took over. And then while that was playing its first bar, I triggered the next scene. And when this loop finished playing its first bar, this one started, right? So you can, you know. Boom, boom. Right. Okay, before we do any more copying over, let's make a bass line. So, software instrument. On here, I'm going to put a synthesizer, EDM bass. I want some old school thing. This will do. Right, there's my bass. Okay, now I want to put the bass in with one of these patterns playing along. Let's say the first one, the kick. So to do that, I make sure this is stopped properly, so this is ready to play. Well, every other thing in this row, in this column, if there are other if there are other cells in this column on other tracks, stop, and they'd all be ready to play. Then I cue the scene, cue scene. Now, if I hit record on this cell, anything else in this vertical scene will play along. See, it's queued up. No, right, here we go. I don't need the metronome now because I'll have the kick to play to. Here we go. Boom, 4 bars. There it is, double click. Let's say quantize. Let's have a quick listen to that. Yeah, there's a duff note there. Do that again. Reset. Let's do the whole thing. Okay, all good, but before I go any further, to give it that real old school thing, I'm going to make every note the same velocity and the same length, because the old pattern sequences, they did that. They tended to do that. Where are we? Fixed note length. Boom. 16ths. Yeah? Which is why those old school tunes, when you listen to things like bass lines and other types of note type patterns, the notes tend to be 16ths or 8ths, because yeah, you know, in a sequencer like the QX series, the Yamahas or the MCs or whatever, yeah, you could go into an individual note and adjust its length, but things tended to quantize to, like, you know, 16ths, 8ths or whatever. Right, okay, so there's my bass line. Let me just reset, bomb, and right. Stop. Okay, so that I'm going to copy to the other 3 vertical scenes, the other two, sorry, vertical scenes. Select, Command R, Command R, there we go. So now I can do this. Snare up a bit there. Okay, easy peasy, right? Okay, so what we're doing is we're making something, copying over, building it, making something, adding something new, copying over, adding something new. We're building, building, building. We copy over and build, copy over and build, copy over and build. So now I've got two cells in this third vertical scene. To copy these over to the next, yeah, I could get each one and do Command R and copy each cell over, you know, repeat it. Command Z, Command Z. But what I can do is just go here at the bottom and do duplicate and just bung it over to the next vertical scene. Let's add another instrument now. Let's add some percussion. So you can add drummer, yeah, drummer tracks, but in this case drummer cells. Percussion, create, and it creates a drummer track, and you get the yellow cross there in the middle to add a new drummer pattern. It's similar to over here, you know, where you get the plus there and you add a new drummer region, then you edit the pattern. When you do it over here, you get an 8-bar long pattern. Here, when you do it, you get 4 bars. Boom, that's 4 bars. Look over here, cell length 4, loop length 4. Right, so now let's hear that playing along with everything else. Okay, I just want to lower that clave a bit, so let's open the sampler. Mapping. Where's my clave? Cabasa. Lap. Lave. There it is. There's a little bugger there. Let's lower it down a bit. Let's hear that. Okay, I'll do. Just lower it down a bit. So this is to add something else in. Okay, so I'll copy that whole scene over. Duplicate, boom, over to here. Let's add something else. Let's add software instrument. Let's add some good old-fashioned, let's just make this a bit smaller. Some good old-fashioned synth strings. Synthesizer string. Some vintage synth strings. Lovely jubbly, but I don't want that much release. Where's my release? Let's take that down. Now do, alright, let's put some strings in here. This is, I've done stop stops, this is all ready to go. Cue the scene, hit record here. There we go. Boom. 4 bars, double click, come on. There it is. Make sure that's not spilling out. Spilling out the end like that. Slow it all down and velocity a bit. Lower the track. Here we go. Stop, stop, stop. Now here's the thing, I can let that play around as long as I want, but if I know that I want this, because all these patterns are 4 bars, if I know that this section I want to cycle around 4 times, and in the final cycle of the synth it changes to that, then what I could do is I could so I want that to play 3 times around, then the final one longer, so I need to make that 16 bars long. And get that. Command R, R, R. Oh, it's just doing that note, sorry, my bad. All notes, Command R, R, R. And then that final note. Now this is now 16 bars long, this. There's the pattern cell, look up here, cell length 16, loop length 16, which means that all the other patterns have got to play round 4 times for this to complete 1 cycle of 16 bars. Then, with that final ending high note, I could switch to the next vertical scene, the next section of my song. The trouble with that is that it doesn't give me the opportunity to let this play for less cycles. And if I want that final note to come, say, after just 2 repeats of the 4-bar pattern, it kind of restricts me. So I could do it that way, but it means that for this to finish on the final high note, I've got to let this section play around 16 bars. Right, 4 cycles of the synth. Could do it that way. Could, or the other way of doing it. Command Z, Command Z, Command Z, Command Z. Just keep it the same length as all the other patterns. 4 bars. Right. Then I could copy this scene over. Oh, not Q, duplicate. And then in this one, I could have the high note. Now that way, I could let this play around as long as I want. Hang on a minute. Yeah, hi, so I'm in the middle of recording. I'll call you back, yeah. Right, soon. See you. Right, so the only thing I have to remember is that this plays 4 bars before it gets to that final high note. But I could do this. I could do. You know, I could cycle between them like that, jump between them. Or if I want the whole thing to play round for 16 bars and the high note to finish at the very end of that 16 bars, I can do... Right, but if I do it that way, it gives me the option to do 1 bar of this, 1 bar, 4 bars of this, 1 complete cycle of this section, and then 4 bars of that, 1 complete cycle. So I could have it ending on the lower note, ending on the high note, or let that play 3 times, and then that 1 time to give me 16 bars ending on the high note. That way gives me the option. So it's up to you. All right, I'll leave it like that. All right, let's duplicate. Not the scene with the high note. Let's duplicate this scene over, and it gets duplicated to, yeah, here, and that high, that's the high note one, isn't it? Yeah, that gets shoved up. So I could change the order of those if I want, and it, notice how it renumbered them. Look, 7, move 7 and 6 and swap them around. They change number. Okay. So this is my basic pattern. That's ending on the high note. These are all 4 bar cycles, these vertical stacks. Back to the normal one, and then here we're going to add in another instrument. White shout, software instrument sound. Here we go. Let's have a good old-fashioned, no, not an electric piano. Let's have a synthesizer, EDM chords, classic house organ. Going for old school here, right? You know what I'm saying? Now, I'm rubbish, absolutely bloody rubbish at playing chords because I don't play piano. But the beauty of Adore is we can slow the tempo down. So I'll slow it down. Right, now I've got a much slower thing to play along to. Let's go up an octave. Actually, I don't. Take that bloody echo off. Get off! A bit loud. Something like that, but I'm still going to cock it up even at this slow speed, but who cares? I can edit it afterwards, right? Boom, boom, stop everything, cue the scene, let's have a go. Yeah, that's enough. I made enough mistakes in there, but I can go in there and find something salvageable, maybe. Let's try this second bit here. Bring that over here. Quantize it. Let's see if that. Boom, boom, boom. Let's check that in chord. That's it. And again, I'm going to fix all the velocities. Give it the old school vibe. Let's hear that. Maybe these are a bit, the note lengths are wrong, but let's hear that. Here we go. lick in there. Let's see that. That'll do, and then Command R. Right, so that's 2 bars, another 2 bars in my 4-bar. Come on, in my 4-bar loop cell, right? Alrighty, maybe it needs a bit of reverb. I don't know. Let's hear it. Bing bang bong, right? And I'm just building, right? Okay, next let's duplicate this section over. Duplicate, and let's put in our hook now. And for that, software instrument. Let's go with, we want something suitably old school. So I think it's time to introduce a saxophone. Quick horns, sorry, studio horns. I'm not talking about quick horns. I looked at quick and horns. Single instrument. Tenor sax. We can go with the old alto, but let's go with the tenor. Now I'm not going to try and play a sax pattern in here, so I'll just right click and create a MIDI cell there. Right, I get the 4-bar long cell length across there, that thing there, right. But there's no pattern yet until I input a note. Now there's a pattern. There's the actual pattern region, right. Same length as the cell loop. Now I'm going to build this lick, this hook lick on the sax bit by bit. I don't want to be building my first bar and then having to listen to 3 bars of silence, wait for it to cycle around again. So if I just get this, and I can either change the loop here to 1 bar, like that, or click that and go up here and change it here, look, loop length, cell length. So I'll make it 1 bar, boom, there you go. And now that'll just cycle around 4 times as everything else cycles around once, because all these other cells are 4 bars. Then I can work on the opening lick. Alright, and then when I've done that I can copy it out, extend my loop, my cell length and all that, and pull over. Alright, shank, right, here we go. So let's get it going. Okay, bing bang bong. Now I will make my loop 2 bars, which I could do there, or I could have done it up here, just change the cell length and loop length there. Now, Command R, copy that lick over. I'm going to try and pull off a harmony here for the next bit. But before I do that, I've got to go to the horns and make it polyphonic. Alright, now this cannot be that easy. Alt. Right, bing bang bong. Right, let's make it now. 4 bars. The cycle, the cell, right. And then let's make that a expressive medium. Let's see what that does. Here we go. Bing bang bong, that'll do. And I've got everything I need now to build a song. That'll do. I could go on and add some other things, but that'll do. Okay, because now I can just sit back in my chair. Yeah, like just feet up on the desk. It's literally what I'm doing. Let me move the mic a bit nearer. I'm actually now leaning back in my chair with my feet up on the desk, and I can just sort of build an arrangement. Bear one thing in mind, as I play a section, a scene, the patterns cycle round. And when they are in any bar, if I click any other scene arrow, when the current scene finishes playing whatever bar it's in, it will switch to the next scene. Now, also, while any scene is playing, while it is in any bar it's playing, I can click any individual pattern, and as soon as the currently playing vertical scene finishes playing whatever bar it's in, the new pattern from a totally different scene will begin playing along with that scene. I'll just quickly show you that. Click on a pattern and then click it, stop again, and it will just play through its first bar, or let it play through 2 bars, and while it's in the second bar, click stop and it will finish that bar. I don't have to let these play all the way through, so I could, you know, do this. Yeah, you can do all that, right? Okay, so I can just build my arrangement. And actually, I'll show you the record thing now. So I can just sit back, I'm leaning back with my feet up on the desk, hit record there, ready, I'll stop, so everything's stopped. Activate record. Cue this scene. Hit record here, and whatever I do here is going to get recorded over here. So I can like work on build an arrangement and it'll get recorded over here, and if I don't like it I'll do it again, or when I finish recording I can edit what I've got over here, whatever I like. Here we go, son. Just realised something. Our pattern's not right. Should be that note, shouldn't it? Yeah, that doesn't sound right to be so. Like that. Yeah, that's better. So let me copy that. I'll do it by dragging. Get rid of that one. Get rid of that one, and then Alt, copy that over to the. Yeah, that's much nicer, that pattern. It just comes in at the wrong note. It doesn't sound right. And then this is. And then this is the one where it goes to the high one. So. This is the high one. Yeah, that's better. Right, let's get rid of all that. Let's do it again. But you can see what's going on here. You can just record, you can just sit back. Well, you can dance around the room and just walk over and trigger something. If you've got the Apple iPad and you put the Logic remote on it, you can trigger these by touching with your finger and trigger the cells by touching with your finger, which means you can turn on or off more than one cell at the same time. You can be dancing around the room, grooving to it and go, yeah, I'll drop that in next, or just laze back in a chair like I'm doing. Sure. Let's record it. Here we go. So, stop. QC. Here we go. Yeah, there's a couple of cock-ups in there. I think I blew it a bit here when I was doing that sax lick repeating. Really, I wanted that just to play the opening lick there as well, but I left it on for too long and it played the second bit. Yeah, but you can always go back and tweak this afterwards, right? Yeah. Don't like it? Do it again. Undo record. Edit. Undo. Well, I've done length change now, but if you just finish recording, undo recording and then do it again. Yeah. But the point is, you just sit back or dance around the room, getting into the groove, and just reach over and go, yeah, let's have that bit next. Yeah, let's drop that pattern out and bring that one in, etc. That's how it used to be in the old days with hardware, man. You just have your kit in front of you, you have your drum box, you have your step sequencer, and you just, boom, reach over and go to the whatever pattern you wanted on the drum box. Go to whatever pattern you wanted on the step sequencer. And the step sequencer will be playing your bass line, any sampler stuff, your synth, whatever. You know. Yeah, so there you go. I mean, that's it. In essence, that's it. And now I've got my thing over here, and I can just switch that, like those pair of arrows there. So the white arrow at the main bit up here is pointing to this side. This is now going to be the active side. And I can go through this and I can tweak it, edit it, do whatever I like. Yeah. You know, drop in fills, whatever. Like I just say, last thing, go back to the loops. Now, fills. You can, like say here, here and here, it's like kick with the bass line, then kick and hi-hat with bass line, then kick, hi-hat and snare with bass line. Then the percussion comes in with kick, hat, snare and bass. Now let's say if I wanted a fill coming out of this section into that, well, you're faced with the same thing as with the strings. If I know this is going to play around 2 times, 8 bars before I drop this section in, then I can go into this and I could put a fill at the end. I could make this 4 bars and put a fill in the last bar, but the trouble is that means it'll because the maximum pattern length here at 16ths is 4 bars, so I'm only going to get this to cycle round. It'll play around 4 bars and the fill will be in the final bar. I can't let this cycle around twice without the fill coming at the end of each 4-bar loop. So that's, you know, if you want this to only play around 4 bars, fine. So I mean, my options would be, go back to that. My options would be to duplicate this section, which is now here. Everything else gets shunted up, and in this pattern, put a fill on the snare right across. And then, you know, while this is playing, oh yeah, one thing is this is 4 bars because it's a 4-bar loop of this 1-bar fill pattern. So I'd have to then get that and reduce this pattern and length, the loop and the cell length to just 1 bar. Now that means, this would be difficult. I'd have to, while this is playing around, let it cycle around once, this whole section here, 4 bars to cycle all the way around, both patterns. Then let it go into its next cycle where it's going round the 4 bars again, but in the middle of the 3rd bar I'd have to hit this scene so it would switch for the final bar to this to play the fill like this. But that'll just keep on playing round. So while that's playing its 1 bar, I've got to switch to the next scene, which I want to come in after the fill. So, you know, I'd have to do this. Yeah, you can do that. You can do that. But the other thing you could do is, I could just have a scene for just fills. So I could take that out, right? Go back to this pan and take everything out. So this is just the fill, only the fill. Then while this is playing, I can drop that fill in anytime I want. Sorry, by hitting the cell, not the scene. This will keep playing while I hit that pattern individually. Here we go, like this, sorry. But the trouble with that is it takes over from this pattern. If you switch to play another pattern to play along with a scene in the same row, it will turn off any other pattern that's playing in that row and switch to that, so that then I'll lose my beat. Okay. So the best thing is to, well, what I think is the best thing, let's get rid of this scene completely, is make a new track under my drums, software instrument track. And what's the snare I'm using in this pattern? It's the snare 3 for the deep bass house kit. Now, I don't know if you know this, but you can put individual drums on instrument tracks. You don't have to load the whole kit. So there's my instrument track. I go to electronic drum kit all the way down to kit pieces, snares, and I want snare 3 deep bass house. That's the same snare. Okay. Now, I want to insert an empty scene here. Switch these. Whoa! Let's switch these round. There we go. I've got an empty scene here, and here I'll just put. There's my fill. Lower it down. Now this, if I trigger this, it ain't going to stop the pattern on this row playing. So I could do this. But that's 4 bars, so it's going to go round and round and round. So I get to the pattern and go over to here. Let's make it 1 bar long, like that, and then take it out of loop. So it's just it'll play once and stop, like this. Then switch to my next scene. So you can have a vertical column. Sorry, you can have sorry, not a vertical row. I'm not talking about a vertical column. I can have a row rather of just fills if I want to, or I could bring in another. I could make another track underneath this with another drum to do fills on. Then have 2 different tracks. And in the column, have 2 different types of fills. Or I could have fills going across here and I'd label them and I could drop them in anywhere I wanted. So if this section's playing here, you can do all that. You can do the same with risers. You can have a riser. The riser. When you're using risers, by the way, it's best not to use these ones that don't have a defined beat length. Just trust me, it is, because with the one, any loop that has a defined beat length, you can do the same thing as with MIDI regions. Right, with MIDI regions or cells, you can change the loop length and have the pattern play anywhere along the length of it. With these loops, whether they're risers or other loops, if they're a timing thing here, it's more difficult to do that. But if they've got a fixed amount of beats, you can. So, got some reverse symbol ones here somewhere. Stack it by name. PQ reverse cymbal riser, yeah. Okay. Yeah, that one. Okay, it's 8 beats. So I'll bring this in and put it there. Come on, down there. Get down there. There. In this column. In this scene here that I'm using for my fill. Oh, God. Come on. There. Right. This is 8 beats, 2 bars. Look at the length, loop length 2, cell length 2. Now, while, say, this section's playing, right, now one thing to be careful with these rises and other loops, right click, playback, speed, check it's not playing double speed. I don't know why, sometimes they do that, but so I'll put it to its normal speed, which means, right, okay, now it's playing 2 bars. So while this section is playing here, yeah, can bring that in. But if you just want it to work with 4 bar things, so you ain't got to be so quick to cue it up, because this is 2 bars. So all my other sections are looping around 4 times to make a cycle. So I'd have to sort of keep my eye and be a bit more accurate and watch these loops playing around in any section, vertical section that's playing, and wait till it gets into its 2nd bar, then hit play on this, so that when that 2nd bar finishes and these loops in any of these other vertical scenes that are playing go into playing their 3rd and 4th bar, this will play over that final 2 bars. But what I can do is, like with the MIDI, here look, fortunately you're not allowed to zoom all the way right out, but I can do it. The zoom, maximum zoom out, still puts the loop, and this is loop along the top there, at the very end of the window. You can't zoom out more to bring this end to somewhere in the middle. So get this, and let's just make the cell length 4 bars. 4 bars. Right? Now, zoom out. There's my loop length, my cell and loop length, 4 bars, but the pattern's going to play in the first 2 bars. So let's put this in bar for snap and just drag this. Come on. Snap, snap. Okay, now this is a 4 bar loop, but the first 2 bars are going to be empty. The cymbal crescendo plays in the second 2 bars. So while these are playing round, any of these scenes are playing round, right? As they go to they finish one cycle to go into playing around another 4 bars. I just hit this. I don't have to worry about the timing. As these play round their next 4 bars, this will wait, won't play for 2 bars, then we'll come in and do the crescendo for the final 2 bars, like this. And then switch to another section. Now if I bring this row up here next to my fill, I can work the 2 together a bit more easily. So let's close that. So let's say this section's finished and I want to do the riser and the fill. And I want to do the riser and the fill going into the sax lick. So let's get this bit going here. So what I'll do is I'll let these cycle around once. All of these are 4 bars. So this section is 4 bars. I'll let it cycle around. When it gets into its final bar, I'll hit that riser. When these go into play their next cycle of 4, the riser will start. 2 bars empty, and then for the final 2 bars, do the riser. And then I'll drop this in for the final bar. And then switch to this vertical scene to switch to playing the lick, like this. you can do all that stuff, right? Okay, yeah? You getting it? That's it, really. Anyway, live loops. I'll do some other videos. I don't think you can't use this with guitar music to get songs together. You can. I'll come back and do a video on that as well, but I'll do more videos on live loops. But there's your essence, all right? So, as I usually say at the end of my longer videos, are you not entertained?
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained? Is this not why you are here?
I mean, really, this thing is epic, live loops. It really is. It's just brilliant. Any questions, comments, please leave them below. Please subscribe. Bing, bing, bing. Hit the notification bell, etc. You get any new stuff, you'll get a note of it. But just as important, please get the word out there. Any social media or forums you use, get the word out, you know. Okay, hope that's useful. I'll see you for the next one.